Welcome to Digital Dialogue,
a Calhoun Community College podcast.
We're your hosts, Caitlin McKee
and Lauren Brown.
Today, we're going to talk about universal design for learning.
And accessibility, and ourselves. Because we love to talk about ourselves.
Yep, we do.
And our dogs, and our, passions in life, like crafting, and coffee, and
books. I talk about books.
Oh, yeah.
I just mainly talk about my dog books and stationery. Which, did we talk about that stone paper?
Oh, tell me about stone paper. I saw this on social media the other day because we don't want to call out any specific social media platform.
Yeah.
I mean, it was on Instagram. I did see a video that looked like pure just fakery and lies. And they were claiming that this paper, nothing would bleed through it, and that it is made of stone. So, Caitlin, as our stationery expert, please learn me something.
So, I live in the world of fountain pens. It's an obsession. It's a collection. But anyway, with that, a lot of people go back and forth because fountain pens can bleed really bad if you don't have the right paper. And so, obviously, when we hear as a community, stone paper, no bleeding ever, we're all very excited.
Yeah.
But because that paper doesn't absorb water, because it is unbleedable, fountain pens don't really work on it. It's because it can't absorb the ink. So, I feel like stone paper would only actually be good if you want to use a ballpoint pen.
Pearl.
Yeah, but I think what stone paper is mostly for is pencil. Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up because how is stone paper like? Is it actual stone?
I don't have a clue how you would make paper out of stone. But I did learn in all this research that, because apparently, I live in the pen world, but there are people that live in the pencil world. And they were saying that pencil is more archival than ink, which blows my mind.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I can rub away pencil with my finger, but apparently it's like super, it's there forever.
Okay, straight from the internet. So, citing my source, this is from the internet. I typed in stone paper into Google, and this is what popped up via Wikipedia, which I know there is some controversy as to using Wikipedia in educational as an educational source.
Yeah. But as straight up assumptions, it's fine.
Okay. All right. So stone paper products, generally referred to as bioplastic paper, mineral paper, or rich mineral paper, are strong and durable paper-like material. Paper-like material.
So it's not actually paper.
Manufactured from calcium carbonate, bonded with small amounts of high-density polyethylene resin. They are used in many of the same applications as cellulose-based paper.
See, here's why I'm not a scientist. None of that made the paper sound more fun. It made it sound less appealing.
But, there's a whole... I'm looking at a picture of somebody pouring coffee onto it, which is something I desperately need because I have notebooks and paper pads that I can no longer use because coffee has spilled on them somehow.
Yeah.
Let's start off by introducing ourselves since our good listeners don't really know us. Maybe. Some might.
Hopefully might.
Maybe.
If our friends don't listen to this, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, I've already been telling family, so I will be hurt. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know who you are. I guess that threat doesn't matter because if they heard it, then they're here.
Right. Which, thank you so much. We love you.
My name is Caitlin, and I work in distance learning at Calhoun Community College. I got my bachelor's in English and a technical writing cognate. I started my career in IT, working part-time through college, and that experience propelled me to where I am today. I'm a technical application specialist. So I kind of just keep Blackboard pretty and up and running, and I also deal with all Tier 2 student issues. Yeah, I have a dog. He is the light of my life.
He is an angel.
He is.
Confirmed.
Yeah, his name is Murphy. I also have a husband who I also dearly love.
Mentioned second, though.
Well, I feel like one of them defines a very large personality trait, which is that I'm obsessed with my dog. And the other one is like, lots of people have husbands, which I guess lots of people are obsessed with their dogs too. So,
well,
maybe it doesn't matter. I also love stationery and books.
Yes, that is true. That is true. My name is Lauren Brown. I'm an instructional designer here at Calhoun. I also work in distance learning, hence why Caitlin and I are doing this together. I didn't know Caitlin before I came to distance learning. Pretty sure that I had talked to her before on the phone with help desk, maybe, or after getting pushed to you. I had a random memory from like 5 years ago. Like, I think I actually talked to Caitlin once because I had a problem with something. Anyway.
I don't remember that.
Wow.
No offense. I'm sorry.
Hurtful. But I have a bachelor's of science in biology and also a master's of science in biology. Really, I feel like this is where I need to be in this instructional designer position. So I'm very happy that I'm here. Working.
I'm also very happy Lauren's here.
Well, thank you. I'm just thrilled to be able to work with the people that I get to work with, and talk with all of our faculty on a regular basis, and it's a joy. So.
And you focus on, because our department has 2 instructional designers. Your departments are?
I am business CIS and also math and science. And I also kind of help with technologies.
Awesome.
So.
And you guys will meet our other department members, coworkers.
Yeah.
Coming up, Mallory, our second instructional designer, she's going to be on episode 3, I think. And then Wes, our fearless leader, will be on next month.
Yes.
Next month.
Yes. So you'll get to meet the whole gang.
Whole crew.
It'll be awesome.
Maybe even the dogs one day.
Oh, yes. I also have a dog. His name is Norman. He is a ball of energy and fun and just mischief and
adorable.
Well, yes. It gets him out of quite a lot of trouble just because of how cute he is. Okay, so we are kind of starting off with season 1 with talking about universal design, like overall, right? So the first 4 episodes we're going to be talking about accessibility. And so for this episode, we kind of wanted to jump into UDL principles, like basic UDL principles.
That is universal design for learning, as Caitlin learned today.
And then also just accessibility from an e-learning perspective, which is kind of, that's what we work in every day is e-learning. So, Caitlin.
Lauren.
How do you feel about UDL?
Honestly, I think UDL is invaluable. So, universal design is kind of our overarching theme this season. And we kind of have 2 branches of that. This first 4 episodes, we're going to talk about accessibility. And then last 4, we're going to talk about learning styles / learning strategies. We go into, in the second half of this season, about learning styles versus learning strategies.
Yes.
And that, learning styles aren't really quite as applicable as they used to be. However, I will probably mess up and say that. So just know we've been schooled. So
yes. We are learning.
We are learning.
We are learning.
Different people learn differently. And different strategies work better for different people. And whether you need accommodations or not, closed captions can be beneficial if you're, a stay-at-home mom who only has nap time to do her classes and needs to read, watch with captions because the volume's so low, not to wake up kiddos. Ina Smith is our guest next week, and we talked about she compared it to facilities as well, like talking about water fountains. The short water fountains are not only for wheelchair users, but kids. It helps a mom not have to lift up her children.
Right.
So it's an element of universal design in the real world where captions are a good example in the e-space.
So UDL is kind of a framework. A lot of times it's called a framework. So it's these set of guidelines that are put into place to optimize teaching and learning for everyone, just kind of based on how people learn, and also just taking into account what can be helpful for people in different stages of life, whether or not they have actual documented accommodations. So I think that, and this kind of ties in with accessibility, which we'll talk about too, the idea of UDL has really gotten super popular just within the past few years.
Absolutely.
I remember when UDL was not a concern, people thought about captions as just for students who have an actual documented accommodation for captions, or for those that are hard of hearing. And so I feel like people's minds are shifting a little bit, and I think that that's a positive thing.
Yeah. Remember, was it a year or two ago now, we pushed and got all the videos at Calhoun captioned?
Yeah.
So I remember when we first started doing that, we had some pushback, and they're like, faculty were like, I don't have any students in my classes with accommodations. Why do I have to do this now? Why can't this just become a thing if it needs to be a thing? And, we explained that there's a couple reasons why, it was necessary for everyone to go through it and everyone to get it done. And one reason is universal design. If you do end up with a student that has accommodations, chances are you're not going to get a 3-month notice of that to
Right. Exactly
to
right.
caption your videos.
Right.
So, it's necessary that we have all our videos captioned in case, we have a student that needs that class. I believe moving forward, all our videos are captioned. I think that's a process that we kind of make sure happens. And that was kind of our phase 2 for accessibility. I think the first thing we went through was documents.
So what Caitlin is referring to is a few years ago, we kind of rolled out our accessibility guidelines, these requirements really, for our digital space. And we kind of did them in phases as to not overwhelm our faculty with these new requirements. So phase 1 is really focusing on fonts within the course. And this is within the actual Blackboard course, but also within any documentation that you're going to be uploading into your course, with any presentations that you're going to be uploading into the course. So we asked for ADA compliant font faces. So that would be like Arial, Times New Roman, Calibri, Tahoma, some of the very commonly used ones.
Yeah.
Just kind of reevaluating and really trying to stick to one font face, not throughout your entire course, because that's very hard to do, but, throughout maybe one document. You don't want to be changing up, your font face throughout the document. And then we asked them to look at color as well, because I feel like obviously for ADA accommodations, we don't need to have hard to read text in terms of color. So we asked that all text be black. Links are automatically turned blue, right? So hyperlinks are automatically blue, and that's perfectly fine. You can leave those blue. But everything else does need to be black. And we've had some concerns about that because our faculty, and I would say I understand this, color does call things out very easily, right? So if something is red in the middle of the paragraph, your eye is going to go to that red text.
But, and I feel like red is a perfect example. Red on white is not ADA compliant. You cannot put the standard red on white. It would have to be like a very deep maroon.
Which would defeat the purpose.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably the one we ran into the most.
Yes.
Is telling people, you can't emphasize that word with red.
Yeah.
And also you can't, ADA compliance, you're not allowed to underline things that aren't links.
That's right. So we ask that only links be underlined. Bold and italics is okay. Just use sparingly. Because if it's throughout a paragraph or throughout a document, like there's a lot of italics going on, there's a lot of bold. Kind of going back to what we were talking about, actual font faces, if there's a lot of change up, it can really affect the readability of the document.
And, we've kind of shifted. We were talking in the beginning more about hard of hearing students. We've moved into the visual space. And just looping everything back around to universal design, I'm sure I will bring this up more than just right now, but I have ADHD. And, for me, if I'm reading something that is very loud out there, colors everywhere, that's distracting. And it takes away from me being able to concentrate and comprehend what I'm reading.
Exactly.
Even though I don't have any visual impairment, it's, that's still a consideration.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can read the words, but it's still distracting.
Thinking about our dyslexic students, I can't imagine how difficult it would be to read through something where there's a ton of bold and then we're switching to italics and then maybe we're switching between fonts or sizes. I mean, I've seen where things are changing up so frequently, you really can't. There's no way to track through the message or through the paragraph.
Because, if you, without dyslexia, are having a hard time.
Exactly.
Can't imagine.
Right.
What a student who struggles with that, has.
Exactly. And so going back to the colored font as well, we do have to think about our colorblind students. Red is one of the most common colors affected by color blindness. So if you're trying to emphasize something with red, those students aren't going to, pick up on that.
It could do exactly the opposite, where it blends so well into the background, they don't see it at all.
Yeah, right.
I mean, really?
Right. And so we ask that, and maybe some of you guys have heard this, but, color alone should not be used to emphasize something. So, and I think that just black in general is the easiest way to get the message across and is the most readable.
And it is the best color. So, I mean, that's unarguable.
Just in general, right? From a fashion standpoint.
Love it. This whole part has made me really excited. I can't wait to get to our tech corner.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Because I mean, if you're at Calhoun and you've been in any kind of session with me, you've already heard about this tech corner. Because I'm pretty obsessed. But we'll get there.
Well, it's an awesome tool. But
it is a really cool tool.
Anyway, we digress. But the kind of the third sub-phase of phase 1, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Sub-phase, we'll go with it, is font size. So, no tiny text. We try to get it at 12 or larger. And just using
the same size.
well, the same size, please, throughout your document. And also utilizing those headings that are already, hey, if you're needing a heading, or if you need to put in a title or a subheading or whatever, if you're using Word, if you're in Blackboard, there are already built-in headings, various styles of headings, subheadings, titles, that you can utilize.
Yeah. And those are important for screen readers.
Yes.
Screen readers look at those headings, and they have a different way of pointing out that, this is a heading, here starts a new section, this is a subsection of the big section. And we were in a webinar one time, and I'm sure you remember this, Lauren, where they played like what a screen reader reads. If you're not used to that, it's hard.
Right.
But those things do make a big difference, and you could tell that in that video.
And, as a sighted person, I can go through a big, long document, and I can skim to find the area where I need to be. If you're using a screen reader, those headings and subheadings provide navigation for the user, so they can very quickly identify where they need to be, where they need to revisit, where they need to review. So that's why using those built-in headings, subheadings, titles, that sort of thing, that's why that's so important.
Because if you just make a heading without tagging it as such, it doesn't do anything.
No, it's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be helpful. When I'm listening to a webinar, when I'm listening to a podcast, I get really frustrated with not having a solution, right? So I like to be in a webinar that's providing me solutions to problems, right? So I feel like a lot of things, especially when it comes to text, I feel like the main issue that I've heard from faculty is, well, my course just gets so boring. So they want to be able to provide emphasis to certain things. They want to be able to jazz up the way that their course looks, make it a little more fun and friendly and colorful. And there are ways to do that. I would say that if you're trying to provide emphasis for something throughout, let's say you've got an announcement. Maybe it's your welcome announcement for the course, right? Because those tend to be quite long and involved. Instead of using red text, you can go through and put asterisks around them. Yeah. You can go through and bold it. Again, use bold and italics sparingly, but you can definitely use it. There are ways to feature bits of information without putting them in color.
I would say if you're doing this, as in using color as a way to engage your students, that's not a good way to engage your students. There are better ways. And I don't know that this season we're going to get into that, but we will eventually get into that.
Yeah.
Just different ways to engage your students and make them feel more like they want to be there. But just adding colorful text is not going to do that.
Yeah, I've seen some very colorful courses where, let's say, unit folders, each unit folder is a different color, the title to it. And that's not the way to engage your students, And
I get it.
I do, and I get the heart behind it because they're wanting it to be a little bit more jazzy for their students.
Even if I think about it like, I feel like our brains like to associate color with things. So, if everything in Unit 1 is green, if I'm wondering, oh my goodness, did I finish Unit 1? I'm like, yeah, I did all the green things. Mm-hmm. So right. I totally get that. 100%.
And thinking about all of, your students who maybe are colorblind
Yeah.
or the color is distracting for them, even if they don't have an accommodation, that's not going to be helpful. It's not going to be helpful for them.
Again, making it like an equal playing field, I think, is important.
Right. So that was kind of phase 1, was going through text and really focusing on text. Phase 2 of this kind of accessibility guideline rollout is alt text, providing alt text, alt tagging to images within Blackboard. Again, any file. So that includes like Word, PowerPoint, PDFs, all of the images within those documents that you end up uploading into your LMS, in this case, Blackboard course, they should all have alt tags. And I feel like as even these companies like Microsoft, as they find out how important this is, they've made the process of alt tagging very easy.
Yes.
I remember just a year ago, 2 years ago, it was different. Post-pandemic, things have gotten a lot easier for e-learning and making sure that things are, as they should be in terms of universal design. And it's funny just because, you would think Microsoft would be on top of this, and they're not. They're learning with all of us how important these things are. So if you are trying to alt tag something in Word, because I feel like if you're at another institution and you're using another LMS, then hearing how to do it in Blackboard might not be super helpful, although it is very easy. All you have to do is right-click on it and then click on image and then put it in alt text. But in Word, you can do it a couple of different ways. You can right-click on it, right-click on the image, and then you should see it's usually towards kind of the bottom of the menu that pops up is to add alt text. Or, which we recommend doing this anyway, do kind of an overall accessibility check of the document. And you can just simply find that from the kind of the main menu of the document. So kind of when you click on that little arrow, it kind of brings you to the info page for the document. And then below it, that's where you see new, open, save as, that kind of stuff. So it's under the info page, and you should see something there about checking for issues. So that's a good way to check for it kind of overall, and it'll also point out other sorts of accessibility issues in your document. But it will certainly pull in alt text, or missing alt text rather. So that's kind of an easy way to do that within Microsoft products.
And if you're looking for something to invest in at your institution, we will have Mallory on in a couple weeks to talk about Blackboard Ally, which is not only for Blackboard. You can use it with other LMSs as well. And yeah, she'll be able to tell us more about that and how it works, but it will do that same accessibility check for your course in Blackboard. And just in case people aren't aware, alt text is accommodation for vision impaired students or anyone who needs screen reader. So basically what should go in your alt text is a description of the image. And what you need to get across in the alt text is what's important in the image to your content. So, if it's woman dancing, but you're in a history class, or something, you should say woman dancing in historical attire and describe, what it might be.
Right.
And that depends on your subject matter.
Right. And that brings up such a good point, a concern that I've heard many times, which is how descriptive do I need to be?
Yes.
Right? Because I've heard, well, this is a very complex image. Do I need to be pointing out every single part of this figure? And the answer to that is no. You don't, right? Unless that image is serving a purpose of pointing out various, let's say, parts of a cell, right? So if that image is more decorative, you can actually mark things as null or as decorative. And basically, screen readers either note it as a decorative image and then it just kind of moves on, or it skips over it entirely.
If you are doing a section on historical dress in different cultures and you're showing a picture of a kimono on a kimono stand, like you're showing just that, you're describing the kimono, the scene on it, the silk, whatever it is. But if it was that same kimono on a woman dancing, you don't need to describe everything on the kimono, because chances are you're looking more at the style of dance rather than the kimono itself.
Okay.
And so, but if you are still looking at the kimono, then you would describe the kimono. If you're not worried about how she's dancing or her pose, it's all about what you are trying to get across to the students in your image.
Right. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was a lot of instructors in very visual subjects, math, science, technologies, things that use graphs a lot. There is a concern of, how do I alt tag this? How do I even provide a long description for it? Because a long description is something that you can do if you can't concisely sum up what's happening in a picture. If you need more space to do that, you can actually provide a long description for an image. But it is really hard to do that with math. It's really hard to do that with science.
Yes.
And so the question is, how do we do that? Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
And can I be honest with you? I've asked people who are pretty well experts in this. They don't know either.
Yeah.
They don't know either.
Yeah. And it is hard. We have faculty every day ask us these questions, and if you have an answer, let us know.
Please share. Please share with us and the rest of the world, because we're all struggling with this.
It is very hard. I wish I could remember his name. We could probably go back and find it, but we had a guy come in and talk to Calhoun as a whole about accessibility, and he talked about alt tagging and this in general, and we asked him, and it's just like, it's so subjective. It's not only on a subject by subject basis, it's on a question by question basis. It's on an image by image basis.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard.
It makes it really difficult, because there's no one easy answer. And I feel like that is true across accommodations.
Yeah.
There's no one solution that's going to fit all of your students, because that's just not how people work. Everybody's different.
But all this kind of circles back to universal design and why it's good and why it's necessary to think about beyond accommodations.
Right. And so that was kind of phase 2. And then phase 3, we kind of wrapped up with the captioning, which we've talked about. And just on a personal level, I don't really have any sort of hearing impairment, but I have captions on the TV and on Netflix and on Hulu all the time. I have them on all the time because it helps me focus, I think.
Yeah.
And it helps me understand different accents that maybe I'm not familiar with.
Oh, I use them too for accents.
Yeah.
Even being native English speaker and only English speaker, even like if I'm watching a British show or something, like I like to have them on because there are some things I just miss.
Right.
My brain is like tuned in to pick up,
Yeah.
American English.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just it's really helpful.
And there's differences in vocabulary
Yes.
and how, syntax, how things are said and the way in which they're said. So I find it incredibly helpful.
I think that's a good segue into our tech topic this week. Our tech is a font called Open Dyslexic. this font was developed by an individual who had a personal connection with someone who has dyslexia. And I believe it was father and son. And they have made this text free. The specific thing we're going to talk about today is on Chrome. But if you have a Kindle, you've probably seen this text. It's on Kindle. If you have Chrome, which we recommend highly.
We do. Please use Chrome, guys.
Do not ever use Edge.
Or Internet Explorer, which people are still using, I think.
Oh, I know.
Please don't. Please, hey
Don't.
guys, please don't.
No.
Okay.
Chrome, Firefox is a second. Anyway, back to Open Dyslexic. So on Chrome, there's an Open Dyslexic extension that you can add, which will change all text on Chrome, unless it's in an image, of course, but it'll change all your text in Chrome to Open Dyslexic. So you can read web pages in this as well. What Open Dyslexic is it is a font designed specifically to help people with dyslexia read better, quicker. How it does this is the letters are designed where the bottom of the letters are fatter and bigger than the tops, and it helps keep your eyes on a line, and it helps you focus. And I use this font all the time. I do not have dyslexia, but I use this font all the time. It helps me read quicker. And like I said earlier, maybe it's because of my ADHD, but it helps me focus.
Yeah.
My eyes continue on the same line. I have this, my eyes aren't flitting back and forth to wherever. And I read quicker. I'm a very slow reader, but I notice a big difference when I'm reading with Open Dyslexic. I read much faster. And that's an example of universal design.
Exactly.
This thing that was not designed for me, it wasn't designed for how my brain works.
Yeah.
I've taken it and it has really helped me in, reading speed. I can get through things quicker. I am a big reader.
Yes.
I read all the time. And so it's been a huge help, and I would encourage everyone to look at it, even just to see how the letters are formed, and just to understand a little bit about how it works and the background of it, the fact that it's free.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can download, I'm not pretty sure, I know you can download the font and add it to your computer. So, then you could use it in Word or Photoshop or anything like that. And it's not unattractive either. It's a pretty cool font.
Yeah.
And just in itself.
No, it's not distracting or anything like that. So if you are associated with Calhoun, then we have it linked in our Student Resource Center, which, of course, if you're faculty, you have the Student Resource Center as well. So you can just click into there, and it's listed. I think it's kind of towards the bottom of the page.
It's in the tips and tricks section.
It's in the tips and tricks section. So the link is there for you. It, like Caitlin said, it's just a Chrome extension.
Yeah.
So easy peasy installation, takes about 2 seconds.
So if you're not a Calhoun faculty member or associated with us,
Right.
or have access to Blackboard, it's spelled OpenDyslexic. And if you just Google that, it'll pop up. And like I said, I encourage you, if you have a Kindle or even just the Kindle app on your iPad or iPhone, I know it's there as well.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
It's really awesome. I think the first place I saw it was Kindle.
Really?
It popped up. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I think I looked it up from there and realized that it was everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's a really cool story behind it. And I feel like it's one of the most, if not the most useful tool I've found that helps me personally.
Yeah.
That's not designed for me.
That is awesome.
Well, guys, that's it for today. Thank you all for listening to the first episode of Digital Dialogue. We are super excited to do this podcast, and we hope that you're here for all 8 episodes of this season, and we hope to be back next year for season 2. So listen, share if you have people that you know in ed tech from other colleges. Let them know. We really want to get this out there and get people involved. We actually have an email address that you can email us for suggestions for future episodes or future themes.
Or if you have questions.
Or segment ideas. We really want that feedback. We really want your input because we want this to be not just for us. We want it to be for everybody and not just at Calhoun. Of course, that's where we're going to start because we have an in. But yeah, so send us all your questions and concerns. We have at least 4 guests lined up for this season, which we are so excited about. We've pre-recorded some of those interviews already, and they are awesome.
They are a hoot.
I mean, I'm not biased at all, but they're awesome.
I mean, our guests are amazing. They just
are amazing. We have a faculty member talking about learning strategies. We have the head of our accessibility ADA office in here next week, actually. Yes. Her name is Dr. Ina Smith, and she is also amazing.
She is amazing.
Word of the day.
Amazing.
So yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up, and we hope to do maybe a bonus episode where we kind of answer some of your questions. So, if you have any, send them in. And like I said, we're pre-recording some of these, so next week's episode, there may not be any listener questions, but hopefully maybe by the 3rd week, we can add some. So yeah, get us your questions and suggestions and what you'd like to hear more of, what you might like to hear less of.
Please be nice. We're delicate. We are. Our emotions are delicate.
We don't take constructive criticism well. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. We don't, but we will.
But it's fine. We'll be polite.
No, seriously. We want to make this work for everyone, and we want to make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
And so we want to hear your suggestions.
And if you do have questions, they can be course design related. They can be LMS related. They can be, of course, accessibility, UDL related. They can be personal life questions.
If you want to see pictures of Murphy and Norman,
we can do that. That'll be hard, but we can do that. We can forward those over to you. So just let us know.
You want to tell them our email address?
Yeah. So our email address is digitaldialogue@Calhoun, CALHOUN.edu.
And dialogue is the form of dialogue with a U in it.
Right, dialogue. Not dialogue like a computer dialogue box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dialogue like conversation.
Right. Get it, guys? Digital dialogue.
We're very funny.
Oh boy, that was Caitlin's doing. Caitlin did that. And we're so happy that her brain came up with that. Because we were struggling before that.
We were. All right. Well, bye.
Bye.